Hmm. Let's try out a little something new this time. Let's see. So, in the last video, I showed a layout of just enough. And this time, I just want to show some of the trees that I have growing in my new fruit forest. So when I first moved in, there were a few original fruit trees that were already on the property. This is a fun one. This is Elaeagnus macrophylla, or silverberry. I put the scientific name there because there are a few species that are closely related and they're all called silverberry. Gummy berries are a popular plant that's being advertised, but it's a cousin of that one. This plant has a very, very nice aroma. It's very strong scent to the flower. It's almost clove-like. It has a very, very heavy scent to it that I like. Oddly enough, this plant's been growing in my yard for almost a decade, and I had not identified it as a fruit tree. I saw some of the fruits on it years ago, and then I couldn't find it because the leaves look awfully similar to an oak tree, and I looked at it several times and just thought it was an oak. But this year I kept looking back there because I knew there was a tree back there and I wanted to know what it was. And come to find out, it is a fruit tree, and it's actually very tasty. Granted, it's not much fruit to it, but it is a very flavorful little berry. And also on the property was a Maiwa kumquat. When I first moved into the property, this tree had died back. It did not look good. It was not producing fruit. It didn't flower. It was just a few stems. Most of them were all covered in lichen, and it looked really rough. I trimmed it back a little bit, and it responded well. After a few years, it started to flower and fruit, but it was only after I added some other citrus to the yard that the flavor actually improved. And so now they're very sweet. Some of the large ones are sweet like honey, and the smaller ones tend to have a stronger orange acid kind of taste to them, but it's been a very delightful tree. There's only a few fruit left on it now because I ate all of them. It was loaded at the beginning of the season. And these are fruit trees that I have previously added to my yard here. The first is my Miniola, and this tree I first came across this fruit in a supermarket, and I really enjoyed it. And one day I was looking through the nursery, and there it was, and I had to have one for my yard. The last freeze, our last serious freeze we had prior to this past year, almost killed this tree back completely. But it recovered and has grown a lot since then. Last year it fruited a lot. Now the Miniolas are particular. You have to really let them sit on the tree for a long time after they first develop their orange color. They get a very deep burnt orange color when they're ripe. If you harvest them before they're ripe, they're not tasty, and I almost cut my tree down because I was completely unsatisfied with the flavor at first. But if you leave the fruit on the tree long enough, the flavor develops, and it is absolutely just a delight to have. And it makes an excellent juice. When you go to peel it, you most of the time can't even peel the peel off the bottom of the fruit because it is just so heavily loaded with juice. So I really enjoy my Mineola. And technical difficulties. This is my pomegranate. I'm trying to change the way it's growing a little bit. I have suspended some bottles from some limbs to try and change the plant chemistry around a little bit and to help shape the tree in the way that I would like to shape it. Oddly enough, I did not get a picture of my white nectarine, and I think I must be neglecting it because I've passed by it several times in some kind of way. I did not get a picture of it. The Pitangas are Suriname cherries. I grew these all from seed, and they are actually more of a tropical plant, but I have been growing them. Now, I planted these right after the last freeze that I referred to, so maybe 3 or 4 years ago. This is the first time that they've had a pretty serious freeze or repetitive freezes. They've lost all of their foliage, so one of the things I'll be looking for this year is whether or not, one, how many of them survive, and I think they're going to be okay and rebound just fine. But this is a tree that is more southernly inclined. My methylated plum, I've been growing for several years, as large as that tree is. Last year, I think I might have had 5 flowers on the whole tree. But that was before I bent the leaves down, or bent the branches down. I've weighted the branches down with bottles there. It's kind of a joke for me because I drink beer as opposed to wine. I know people traditionally use wine glasses for their bottles on trees, but I just use beer bottles as a joke. But the goal there is to kind of alter the plant chemistry a little bit to encourage more flowering. So with this tree, I am just looking to have more than 5 flowers, and I know that is a modest goal, but if I get 10 flowers on this tree this year, I'll be excited. But to be honest, completely honest, after bending the branches down and weighting them last year, I can already see the spur development that I was not getting in previous years. So I'm really looking forward to the flowering this year, just to see what it'll do or how it will respond. But it already looks pretty favorable. This is a volunteer peach. It is probably from rootstock, but it came on up out of magwood tree. So I went ahead and cultivated it, and it's now growing up. So I went ahead and kept it. I know it's probably rootstock. We'll see what it tastes like. It might be something I keep, or it might just serve as a plant for grafting, or it can just get removed and replaced. My pigeon peas are some of my favorite trees, and though they're not technically fruits, I really enjoy having them. These were planted shortly after that last freeze, but the freeze this year just took them out. So I'll be starting those over, which means I probably will not get a spring crop out of them this year. I might be able to get a fall crop. I was able to grow one from seed last year that I was able to get a fall crop out of. So I might be able to get a fall crop out of them. That'll be one challenge for the year, but definitely getting that reestablished is one of my priorities for this year. And the fruit trees that I have recently acquired, one of my, I guess COVID things has been acquiring fruit trees. The Shiranui was my first acquisition. This plant was pretty hard to find. Even online, there weren't many sellers that had it, but there just so happened to be a nursery grower not very far from me that was cultivating this, along with a satsuma that I picked up from him that's up at Magwood. I was really pleased with how the decapon grew in the first year that I had it. It flowered within months of me planting it. It was a bare root tree. It was very, very small. A lot of the growth that you see there is actually growth since I planted it. I picked it up last March, like right after COVID started. So I'm very pleased with it, because one of the reasons I got it was for cross-pollination with my Mineola, and it was already providing that function, having only been in my yard a few months. So I was really pleased with that. This tree is winter fruiting, so years like this year where it got particularly cold, I might lose my fruit, although I did not have a problem with my Mineola fruits this year, even with the freezes. But that might be a problem with this one. And my citrus all have the knobby little neck tops. So I have this theme with the citrus that I've planted in my yard, where my Mineola, my Decapon, and my Sambucan all are citrus that have the knobby tops and are kind of ugly. Well, the Decapon and the Sambucan are not. I would put them on the ugly side, but the Mineola is just a beautiful piece of fruit. And when I'm saying ugly, it's not in a bad way. Miracle fruit is a plant that I looked for years. When I was looking for it years ago, I could never find it, or even really find anyone that heard of it. And I was walking through my local nursery this past spring or summer, and they were there. And oddly, the people that were there didn't really know what they were, or have much regard for them. So I went ahead and scooped them up. These are the two that are at my house. There are a couple others up at Magwood. It really does work. When I saw the plants at the nursery, they had berries on them, and recognizing what they were, I snapped some of them up. I came home and sampled those berries and took a sampling of my yard. The sorrel tasted amazing. Like it really does bring out the natural sugars in plants, and also the acids that are in plants are made to taste so much sweeter. And it's just things that you are familiar with, their flavors are amplified exceedingly. And I mean, even fennel, the natural kind of licorice taste to fennel after tasting a miracle fruit, or after having miracle fruit, it is just like the natural sugars of that licorice flavor. If you haven't tried miracle fruit, you should really try it. It's an experience, and I do understand not everybody quite get it, but it is an experience. Okay, a white guava. There was a neighbor, not really a neighbor, a guy down the street. I was just driving. I saw the fruit tree. I was like, well, what are fruits that are hanging on the tree? And they were white guavas, and he had some extra plants that he had potted there. So I picked this one up from him. I think he charged me maybe $20 for it or something. It was small. I've paid a lot more for plants before, but this is one that I know will grow in the area, and it is a very large guava, pretty fibrous. It's quite tasty, so why not? So here's my white guava. So with my small yard, I decided to go ahead and pursue a plum orchard. This is my yellow gold plum. Santa Rosa plum, Katy apricot. There are all these exciting new low chill cultivars that I decided I would go ahead and try. The Tallahatchie pawpaw. Those are pretty small. I was happy with that though, because I know that they like to grow their tap roots. Another local nursery had some unknown pawpaw, but I went ahead and got it for cross pollination, and it was a little larger, so I was happy with that. Someone stopped by my garden one day and had some soursop that they provided. I actually gave them one of my first miracle fruits that I grew. And they gave me some soursop, and I was able to grow some of the seeds. So those are my little anonas. I'm very happy about those, and I have a few others that I hope I'll be able to cultivate, and I will pull my hair out, I'm sure, trying to keep them going. This is my vegetable hummingbird. I love saying it. It's a funny little plant because even at this size, the leaves are spread now, but in the mornings it'll be all closed up. And so it's really been fun just growing it. It has flowers that are used in soups and stews, and the flowers are very, very large, and they are said to resemble hummingbirds. This is Sesbania grandiflora. This is my sambocan. It is a sweet lemon. It has this beautiful, beautiful story behind it. It is from the Wakayama prefecture in Japan, and it was first found and cultivated by the Tokugawa shogunate. And it's just all those syllables, and it has a wonderful, just beautiful, lovely history, and it has that same dimple on top, so it fits in with my citrus theme. And its story was just, I had to include it in my collection. Back to the plums, are the Inca plum. I will say, when you order trees, particularly online, these stems were a bit large for what I would consider bare root, and the roots were cut pretty severely, in my humble opinion. So I'm eager. Of course, I hope they survive, and I want them to survive. But these were a little large for bare root plants, in my humble opinion. But we'll see. Here's my Dapple Supreme Pluot. My Blenheim Apricot to go with the Katy. The Emerald Drop Pluot. A Burgundy Plum. And a Spice Z Nectar Plum. This is an ornamental as well as a fruit tree, and the name called out to me is another one that I've wanted for a few years, but I was ordering trees anyway, obviously to a hoarder status, though I am still slightly on the side of collecting. And I couldn't resist. So most of my plums are in the back, but the Spice Z Nectar Plum, of course, is front and center. But thank you for allowing me to share my growing food forest with you. One of my goals this year is just trying to keep as many of these plants alive and happy as possible. And this is just enough. And Magwood is a whole other story. But we will see what this year brings, and hopefully next year these trees will still be there. Happy planting and have a great day.